Hey friends, who remembers school lunch pizza from the 80s and 90s? I'm recreating it today as a copycat version of school lunch pizza. Come along with me and I'll show you exactly how I made it. This one goes out to my husband who recommended making this copycat recipe. So let's get started. We're going to add some yeast to some warm water. And if you want to know the exact recipe, check out the description. I'll have it in there. This is an adaptation from a recipe that I found on tastinghistory.com. I changed it a little bit just to suit my needs and what we have in our pantry. And also, they adapted it from the original US agriculture recipe that was for the huge school lunches. So this is definitely a smaller version. This is going to just make one big pan. So now I'm adding some flour, some non-fat dry milk, some sugar, and some salt to a stand mixer, and I'm just going to whisk that together. Now, what's so funny is the original recipe said to whisk that for 4 minutes. Well, obviously, they're doing a much bigger batch, so since we're doing a smaller batch, I just did it for about 30 seconds or so. Now, after that yeast and warm water sat for 5 minutes, we're going to pour that in and let that keep on mixing. And then we're also going to add a little bit of oil. Those are all the ingredients for this crust. But from here, we do need to let that mix for 10 minutes. That's why I'm super excited that I got this new stand mixer. And keep watching our channel. I'm going to give you a full review on this. But spoiler, I really loved this little Hamilton Beach stand mixer. Now, while that's mixing, let's get to the sauce. This was tomato paste and water, and then a whole bunch of spices. And even though this is what really is the nostalgic part, the taste and the flavor of this pizza sauce, it really has a lot of spices that I normally don't keep in my cupboard. And this is where I did adapt a little bit. Now, I put in this minced onion, and it did call for 5 teaspoons, but I would not put that much in next time. So if you're making this recipe, unless you want the little gritty granules in every bite, I would cut back on that onion just a little bit. Now we're also going to add in some garlic, and that was perfect. And then a little bit of pepper. And again, all of these ingredients and measurements will be in the description. Now here's the part I adapted. This Italian seasoning has all of these things: basil, oregano, marjoram, thyme. It has all of those in there. So instead of buying them all separately, I just used the Italian seasoning that I already had in my cupboard. I know the measurements might not be perfect, but guess what? This tasted like school lunch pizza, so it's got to be pretty close. And then I just whisked these all together, and now this needs to simmer on the stove for 10 minutes, and that kind of reduces down a little bit to make a nice, rich, thick sauce. Now, I did taste it, and I would say it really needed salt. Salt wasn't in the recipe, so I added about half a teaspoon of salt to this, and that was perfect. Now, let's get back to our dough. It's been 10 minutes. This is ready. This is a pourable dough. This is not your normal pizza dough. This is made to be pourable. Strange, I know, but this is how they made it. So let's get our pan ready. We're going to just spread some oil all around this pan. Now, the only part that stuck when I baked this pizza were the edges where the cheese stuck to the pan. So just make sure you get up on those sides. Now, we're going to take 1.5 teaspoons of cornmeal and just sprinkle it all over this pan. And I really had to measure that. If I didn't measure it, I don't think I would have used as much. This actually was quite a lot of cornmeal to use. Now we're going to pour our dough on the pan. I've never made any kind of pizza crust like this, but I would actually make it again. It's pretty interesting, and it actually tasted really good. It's more of a bready pizza crust, but it was good. Now, a lot of people in the comments of the original recipe said that it was hard to spread for them, but if you let it sit, it was easier to spread. I didn't really find it to be a problem. I was able to just pour it on here and spread. Now, I'm planning on making a copycat meal every week for all of 2025, so this was my husband's recommendation, but if you have any recommendations, something you want me to make, go ahead and put it down in the comments, and if I make it, I'll shout you out in my video, because I think it's so much fun, and I would love to try some recipes that you guys have in mind. Now, we're going to bake this in the oven at 475 for about 10 minutes. We just need that to get browned. We're going to pull it out, and I have no idea why there's an extra dark brown spot in the middle. Maybe the crust was a little bit thinner there. I'm not sure, but it was fine. It didn't taste burnt or anything. This is a weird part of the recipe. We're going to add cheese on before the sauce. I'm not sure why, but that's what the recipe said. And then I'm going to speed this part out, but all I did was just sort of carefully brush this sauce on so I didn't disturb the cheese, and it actually worked. And I just spread that all the way down. You want to make sure that you spread it all the way to the edges, and you also want to make sure that you pile on that cheese all the way to the edges, because if you remember school lunch pizza, there were no crusts. It was edge to edge pizza, edge to edge cheese. So we're going to put a generous amount of cheese on here. Now, some schools, including the one I went to, served hamburger on their pizza. So I did fry a half a pound of hamburger, and I'm just going to add it to one side of the pizza because I also do remember cheese pizza, so I wanted to try it both ways. Now, once I spoon that on, I just finished with a little bit more cheese on top. And this is ready. We're going to bake it in the oven, again at 475 for about 12 minutes or so. And wait for it. Look at how delicious that looks. It's got a nice golden brown color. That cheese is all nice and melty. I felt like a real lunch lady making this today. Now, I did let it sit to cool for about 5 minutes before I cut into it. And I was so nervous cutting this because one of the big things about school lunch pizza is that nostalgic rectangular shape that fit perfectly in your lunch tray. And I wanted to make sure I got the right size. So I did actually just cut this in 8 slices. And that was like the perfect rectangular piece. Do you remember this? They served it with corn and like pears on the side. And like that was your healthy lunch. But anyway, we all ate it and it was delicious. Well, I didn't think it was so delicious, but a lot of people did. We're going to try both the cheese and the meat, and stay tuned for our reactions coming up. Look who's happy. School lunch pizza.
Back in my day, nobody skipped pizza day.
I was not that much of a fan, and I think it's because our school had the meat pizza, and I really didn't like it that much. But you have the meat, I have the cheese. We'll try it, and then we'll switch, okay?
Okay.
Ooh, it's so hot and steamy. Look at that.
It smells like it for sure. Cornmeal on the bottom? Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it necessarily tastes like school pizza, but it tastes like delicious pizza.
I think it's pretty good.
I actually did skip school pizza day because I didn't ever like it.
There was always one. I'm just kidding. I don't know if there was or not.
Okay, this just has a hamburger topping.
It's perfect because the cheese has got that stringy, chewy, not crunchy cheese like a good pizza would have. This is like bad pizza that's good. Sort of, I guess.
Nostalgic pizza.
Nostalgic.
It's the crust. The crust is not like you'd get today.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like it. I like it a lot.
It is good. Try it.
Gen Xers.
Yeah.
Pizza. They don't have this anymore. Thanks for watching, everybody.